As conservatives, we have this weird ability. It's uncanny. We can lose even when we win. We will win an election, and then we will somehow, some way, we will figure out a way to lose. The MAGA civil war right now, or the right-wing civil war, whatever we want to call it, is one such example of us. We have all of the keys to the kingdom. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. And yet we are still, rather than attacking the left, rather than destroying our sworn enemy who has made very clear that their objective is to kill us, like literally, I'm not being hyperbolic, the left wants to kill us. If they get into power, we saw that they celebrated when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I agree with Charlie Kirk, which means they would want me to share his fate. They would celebrate if I got shot as well. We've seen, Kamala Harris talking about destruction of the Second Amendment, Joe Biden trying to destroy the First Amendment. They already made clear they will pack the Supreme Court and add justices to do whatever they want. We're talking about the death of a republic, the ending of the checks and balances. And no, I don't say that like the liberals do, where they, everything is the sky is falling, Chicken Little. The left, I don't need to explain this to you. They want you dead. They want to destroy everything that you know and love. Yet for some weird reason, some of y'all want to get into a circular firing squad. We have finite time, resources, energy, yet you're spending all of the above on each other. You're using your powder to kill a guy who agrees with you on 80% of the issues. Have we forgotten entirely the 80-20 rule? If somebody agrees with me on 80% of all of the issues, the 20% would have to be pretty important issues for me to focus on that. 99% of the time, if somebody agrees with me 80% on 80% of all of the available issues politically, I'm so happy to find that. We will be best of friends. I will be your best of buddy, and I will ignore the 20% of issues that we disagree on. And it seems like we've lost that. And partly I understand why. Like, I understand where this mentality came from, where you have so many people on the right who want to issue, they want to proctor never-ending purity tests. And they want to make sure, are you really on my team? Are you on my team? Are you a neocon? Are you this? Or are you that? I understand where that came from. And I'm guilty of this, by the way, to some extent myself, because the reason that this has happened is it was a necessary course correction. The concern is that the pendulum went too far. For years, we had this big tent mentality. We had Christless conservatism where we failed to conserve anything. You find me one thing that Republicans have actually conserved over the last 30 years. Not the family, not marriage, not the First Amendment, not Second Amendment, not, even fiscal conservatism. That was like the whole calling card of the right for, 2 decades or something. We have almost $40 trillion of a debt. I mean, we didn't conserve that, not in the slightest. And so I understand where this came from, and it is healthy, by the way. There is a road, and on either side of the road, there is a ditch. And for a long time, we were in the ditch that said, no standards. Big tent, Christless conservatism, and it was horrible. It was very detrimental. That's why we even had to combat the transgender stuff. That's so many of the issues came from, us being way too libertarian, way too laissez-faire, way too, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to mess with it. That was one side of the ditch. Now, on the other side of the road of healthiness, we have the ditch that we have found ourselves in right now, where we take that purity testing, we take that, are you really on my team? Let's see. We take it way too far. And there are people out there who have made it their entire platform. They personally stand to profit financially and with clout and, everything else, but primarily financially. They profit tremendously, making their entire platform and brand a series of never-ending criticisms of everyone else who is nominally on their side. People who agree with them, in many cases, 80% of the time, they will say, you disagreed with me on one secondary, peripheral, tertiary issue, whatever we want to call it. So you are an enemy. You are my enemy. Listen, I have been critical of people like Ben Shapiro. I have been just personally critical of Mark Levin. I could go down a whole gigantic list. I would probably be critical of you. And the best part is you would be critical of me if we laid out every single opinion that we have on literally everything. And there are issues for which we should decouple ourselves, right? If somebody is ravenously pro-abortion, if they want to destroy the Second Amendment, but they call themselves a conservative, of course not. I'm not going to team up with you I'm not going to say we're on the same team. I'm going to focus on some of those pretty important points of disagreement. However, there's a quote from the abolitionist Frederick Douglass, and he said basically, I will unite with anyone to do good, and I will unite with no one to do wrong. Fair enough. So even somebody who I disagree with on 80% of issues, I'll still work with you on the 1 or the 20% of issues where we may agree. There's nothing wrong with that. But as far as like defining what we are, when somebody agrees with us 80% of the time, we should focus largely on the 80% where we agree. We disagree with the left 90%, and they're going to try to kill us, okay? And so even though, like I said, maybe Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, there's certainly foreign policy positions that they hold. I personally don't think that they're America first at all. Ben Shapiro was famously pro-vaccine. He was an anti-Trumper back in 2016, and then he was pro-Trump, and then he was anti-Trump, and then he was pro-Trump again. I don't know. Some of that is a little bit confusing to me. I'm not going to waste my powder on him. I'm not going to spend my time, resources, energy, effort going after Ben Shapiro, even though there are plenty of things where he and I would surely disagree. We're human beings with our own brains, our own minds. There are things where I would disagree with you. I'm not going to waste my powder on you. You know why? Because the barbarians are at the gate. So I'm not going to focus on the guy standing to my left or my right and say, hey, well, I disagree with you on a couple of issues, so me and you should fight. No. I'm going to link arms with that crazy guy who disagrees with me on 20% of issues, and I'm going to say, let's go after those guys who are here to kill us and kill our family and destroy our country and, eliminate Christianity from American culture and import infinity illegal aliens, literally destroying everything that I know and love. I would be a complete moron if I fought the dude to my left or right when the barbarians are at the gate. And so we are seeing a tremendous, tremendous amount of that issue, of people who have made it their whole platform. I am not impressed by how harshly you can criticize people who are on your own team. I'm not impressed by how much you can critique. You're not some cool guy because you can proctor a never-ending series of purity tests and position yourself as though you're the judge, right? If there's somebody who has never achieved anything, I'm not impressed by the way you can tear stuff down. I'm impressed by the way you can build. Charlie Kirk was such an incredible figure, irreplaceable in conservative politics, because he was a coalition builder. He knew how to build things, not just tear stuff down. He knew how to build things. He could get paleocons and neocons and libertarians and random moms and First Amendment people, Second Amendment people. He could get them all in the same room, and he could build a coalition and have them go and have a meaningful, real opposition to the left, rather than gathering them together and saying, hey, everybody, let's focus on the places where we, on our own team, disagree, and let's shoot each other. Yeah, okay, that's a great idea. Brilliant. But I'm seeing a lot of that, especially in the void that's been left by Charlie. You have these people where it's their entire brand to say, well, I'm the most based. Actually, I'm the most based person in the entire room. You're not as based as me, so you're actually the enemy. What's that? You disagree with me slightly on foreign policy? You're an evil person. I hate you. You're like worse than the left. We have this idea. People say, well, the enemy within is worse than the enemy, outside or whatever. No, not really. Not in this case. If the enemy within is somebody who disagrees with me marginally on a peripheral issue, yeah, no, they're not as bad as the person who wants to kill me, destroy my family and my country. Just a thought. Maybe we disregard the people who have accomplished nothing. I'm impressed by people who can build. I'm impressed by people who can move the ball downfield and actually get victories. What I notice about these people who are just like doom posters, nothing's ever good enough for them. The common theme among virtually all of them is they've never accomplished anything. They've never achieved anything. Like if you told them, okay, put a whiteboard up and I want you to list all of the victories that you've accomplished, it's empty. Their biggest victory, well, one time I ratioed J.D. Vance. Well, one time I said that Donald Trump's deportation numbers aren't good enough. And by the way, I don't know if I've said this already, but I'm not saying we can't have constructive criticism. The base needs to have the ability to push back on the administration. I have done so myself. Perhaps maybe I've gone too far at times. This video could be for me as much as it is for anybody else. We need to be able to have disagreements, constructive criticisms, even rigorous debates within our own party. We should be able to just go to blows with each other, preferably in private or in our own spaces. That is healthy. There is a place for that. That's not what I'm talking about today. That is not a civil war. We can have vehement disagreements with each other about, for example, Israel. What is the appropriate, that's one of the big ones, right? Oh, this is the big purity test. What do you think about Israel? we can have disagreements on topics within that. Now, I think it's probably a non-negotiable that you should be America first. That's my position. However, I'm not going to make that the be-all, end-all and say, well, if you disagree with my specific understanding of this specific foreign policy issue, you must be my number one enemy. I'm going to go after, this person or that person. Feel free to disagree. That's healthy. That's normal. And constructive criticism is important. I've said this before. I think the administration actually responds when the base kind of chumps out a little bit and we say, hey, Trump, what the heck are you doing? What I'm talking about is people who, no matter what, they will never give flowers. They're running a demoralization campaign. Nothing is ever good enough. Nothing ever will be good enough. It's all bad. It's all terrible. But they have no prescription for a solution. They have no path to victory. They can't even define what victory even is. They just say everything is bad. Okay, great job, Einstein. You've figured out that humans are flawed creatures. Duh, you want a cookie or something like that? What is your prescription for how we move forward? What's the solution to the issues at hand? The barbarians are at the door. You're complaining about the people to your left and right. What is your solution for the barbarians? And they don't have a freaking answer. This MAGA civil war, right-wing civil war, it needs to stop. If you're one of those people that is just constantly purity testing literally everybody, go look in a mirror, because you're going to fail like half of your own purity tests. Almost always. I mean, maybe you're a saint. Maybe you're like the only perfect person that ever lived. I kind of doubt it. But anyway, there's a healthy road, and we are off in a ditch. We used to be in a ditch on the left. Now we're in a ditch on the right. We're still in a ditch. Let's get back on the road. Let's focus on the enemy at the gates. Let's focus on the mission at hand, and not going for each other's throats. This has got to stop, or we will literally pave the path to our own destruction. We will hand over the keys to the castle to the Democrats in the midterms. If the midterms happen today, we lose, not because the Democrats have done well, but because the Republicans have just decided that the best course of action while we're in power is to use that power against each other. We are paving the way for the Democrats to win the midterms, and God forbid they win the presidency in 2028. We get like Gavin Newsom, they import infinity illegal aliens. We would be cooked. We would just be absolutely cooked, and that would be a very terrible thing. And it wouldn't be because of the efforts of the Democrat. It would be because of our own stupidity. The Democrats would not have won. We would have shot ourselves in the face like complete morons. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on this MAGA civil war. It's got to stop, guys. It really does. Anyway, I hope you had a blessed and Merry Christmas, and I hope that you have a very blessed Happy New Year. Keep me in your prayers. Keep your country in your prayers. God bless.